is Terry Bradshaw, quarterback, Pittsburgh Steelers.
It's 7:15. There's a new home run champion of all time, and it's Henry Aaron.
This is baseball, Major League Baseball. And this is
ABC's Monday Night Baseball, live from Fenway Park in Boston, Massachusetts.
Looking. He's under the gun. He's tied. He throws. It is.
Hey there, and welcome to year 2 of the Past Star Prime podcast. A year ago, we started this little thing because of our love of sports from back in the day, and we're on to 1975. I'm your host, Scott Johnston, and some big changes for the year as I've gotten rid of both Bill and Mark. Okay,
Lewis, I'm here now.
We're back. We're storming the castle.
I love Bill. Bring him back.
Hey guys, Happy New Year.
Happy New
year
Year.
number 2 of Pop. You ready?
We're ready.
Yeah, we start off with a bang today. Steelers and Raiders on the cover. They were a great rivalry back in the day, and we've got Phil Villapiano, the great Raiders linebacker, joining us in a little bit. Any big resolutions for either of you this year, or any resolutions you ever had that you kept and made, stayed with it? Are you a resolutions guy?
No.
I
mean, resolutions can start any day.
Yeah, they can. I agree.
I just don't do that.
My resolution was to drink 537,000 gallons of iced tea in 1 year, and I've achieved that.
There you
So
go.
now it's
There you go.
600,000.
But think of it over the years. Your life changes in resolutions. When you're younger, they're much different than when you get older. So my resolutions back in the 80s were, I hope that girl just likes me this year.
Right.
My resolution is also how many times I could see Nosferatu in one holiday
I've
season.
never seen someone more excited about
He loves it.
a
It's
movie
great,
nobody's heard of.
What are you talking about? No one's heard of. It's getting a lot of
You're
buzz.
going with us.
I predict
I would never see this.
You're
in a million
going.
years.
Oscar nominations. It's a great, well-crafted
Yes,
film.
You
and
can't
you
be
don't-
helped but be disappointed when you're looking forward to a movie.
That
this
is true.
much.
That is true. But Scott, I know that when the guy got you a gift a few years ago, was it the Fast and the Furious, the
Right.
whole collection? You watched those.
I think I watched 20 minutes of one of them. I got through the not
Yeah,
the and
yeah.
Furious. Nope. I thought for sure Bill was going to run a marathon pretty much every week this year.
I
and
pushed
Mark's
8
going to eat a
miles.
piece of meat.
Yes.
It still might happen. I got 365
That's
days.
right. But what about
saw,
you?
I saw a prime rib last night. I saw
Yeah.
this prime rib, slice of prime rib, and it looked really, really good. to
What was
me.
their name? I'm joking. Sorry.
Ba-da-da-boom.
What about you? Any
No, I
resolutions?
don't think so. Like you said, I don't believe in the January 1st resolution. What does that mean? August 23rd? You go, that's a good idea. That would really help my life.
Yeah,
I'll do that
exactly.
in 3 months.
Don't eat any more meat. Well, it's September. I'll do it in January, Doc. Yeah.
Scorecard. Mark, start us off.
Oh, my God. Well, this one I love. It's called A Weighty Problem. It's a guy named Ron Karp, who's 13 years old. He lives in California, and he loves to play the pinball machines. And he wants to set these records. He won a stretch of 36 hours and 3 minutes. He played 481 games on this machine called the Gottlieb Top Card. And so he's just playing these games. So his friends are bringing him food while he's playing, but he's getting foods like corn dogs and pizza and Coke and stuff like that. So when he began playing, he weighed 111 pounds. When he was done playing, he weighed 118 pounds. And then his mom took him and said, "Okay, that's enough video games. You're done."
Yeah.
There's
someone in need of a
Yeah.
resolution.
Yeah.
36
exactly.
hours is enough.
Don't eat
you know
crappy
what's
for
really
7
interesting?
hours.
You say the pinball, okay, and I don't know how popular pinball is today, but think
It
about
was.
1975.
Yep. It's very bit.
Because the movie, The Who had the
Pinball
famous
Wizard.
Pinball Wizard, and the movie came out that year in 75. So pinballs were really, you know,
They
the
were.
70s was a big pinball era.
Sure. I was always horrible at them.
Yeah, so was I. Vegas has like a whole pinball arcade.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. I was always terrible at them. I had friends that were good, but man, ball always seemed to go straight down the
I
middle.
tilt.
I like this one. Patty Johnson, the country's best woman hurdler, rarely loses and is a voice for women's athletics. She wins even when she loses. A year ago, she brought attention to the fact that the Sunkist Invitational in LA had 32 events, but of which only 4 were for women. So she brought attention to that, and this year they've doubled it to 8.
Yeah, finally.
But women's hurdles isn't one of them.
They screwed her again, man.
They really did. They
Another
really
hurdle
did.
for her to climb.
Correct. Let's get right to our cover story. This defense never rested. The Steelers dynasty is now just a game away from officially beginning after they beat the Raiders in Oakland 24-13 in the AFC Championship game for the Raiders. Best team in the regular season, but now have lost 5 straight AFC, AFL title games that they've played in. More on that in a moment. And every team that has beaten Oakland has gone on to win the Super Bowl. The Steelers were about to make it 6 in a row. So the Steelers, at this time you're going, wow, the Steelers look pretty good. We had no idea what they were about to become. Yep. They had just had that unbelievable draft. Franco Harris is coming into his own. Mean Joe Green, Jack Lambert, Jack Ham. I mean, the names just roll.
Swan, yeah. But you look back at those teams nowadays, Raiders and Steelers, all the Hall of Famers, like you just mentioned. They just had, both teams were loaded with guys that you were just like, how did all of those guys get on the same team? Just incredible.
And the game, I mean, the Raiders were up 10-3 going into the fourth quarter. And then all of a sudden, Franco Harris took over, and, the Steelers scored 21 points in that fourth quarter to get the win in Oakland. But that whole Steeler team, though, was led by their defense. I mean, they go to the Super Bowl and play the Vikings and win their first Super Bowl of many. But, again, they win it on defense because I think I remember that Super Bowl. I want to say the halftime score was like 2-0 or something like that.
Yeah,
it was
66
was
right?
the final score.
Yeah.
It was such a boring Super Bowl. I actually switched when I was watching it as a kid. I switched off of it for a while.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, well, there was a Western on.
Yes,
probably. Yes.
Gunsmoke's season premiere.
Franco runs for 111 yards, and a guest of ours earlier last September, Rocky Blyer, adds another 98, while the Raiders ran for 29 yards as a team. That's not going to get it done. A TD pass from Bradshaw to Swan gave the Steelers a 17-10 lead, and they would go on from there to advance to the Super Bowl. As Mark mentioned, they'll play the Vikings. We'll have more on that in just a bit. First, let's talk a little bit more about that game in Oakland with someone who was right in the middle of everything for the Raiders, quite literally. 2-time Pro Bowler, 13 seasons in the NFL, 9 with the Raiders, 4 with the Bills, the great, the one and only Phil Villapiano. Hey, Phil, thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you. Hey, you guys are supposed to applaud.
Yes.
Hey, you know what? My buddy Jim Davenport, who's driving, and he goes, "Should I?" He goes, "Should I applaud?"
Yes, Jim. Applaud.
So why not?
Jim, your sole job, Jim, is sound effects.
Yes.
Okay. You can also boo.
Like always.
Yes, you can also boo whenever Bill talks.
Yeah, please.
Hey, let's start, Phil, with that AFC Championship game in '75 in Oakland against the Steelers. You guys are playing for a chance to go to the Super Bowl again, and this time it's Pittsburgh who stands in your way. Once again, how tough of a loss is it to lose when you're so close to getting to your goal?
Yeah, that was, that game. We start out, we're playing so good. We're going to go up by 14, I think, or at least, was it 10 or 14 at half, and Jim Otto gets a tripping penalty. And then we end up with no points, getting pushed back 15 yards. And it was like somebody just took the wind out of us. And it was like the second half. It's like we weren't even there. I just remember the Steelers going just up and down the field like, what happened to the Raiders? And, here it is, 2024, and I'm still thinking about that game.
Yeah.
We had a great season. We were beating all the big boys. And then, here we go. We're at home. We got the home field. We got everything just the way we wanted. and we laid an egg.
I mean, you had just beaten the two-time defending champion Dolphins in a pretty good game.
Yep, that was a great game too, and we weren't afraid of anybody, and even our defense let down, which usually, when Kenny, we always him and I would always joke, when the offense be running off and the defense be running on, he'd always come up with one of his Southern sayings, and one of his favorite ones, after an interception was, keep it close. And I remember Kenny gave me a couple keep it close that day, which meant things weren't going so good. But ugly game. And, what was really funny was, how do you get over that? And I remember, and this was the beauty of John Madden, when we go to training camp and opening meeting, the first day you get your equipment, everybody, have some laughs, you talk about the off season, you don't do anything. And then right around 5 o'clock or something, John would have a meeting, and the meeting was all about how pissed off he was, how that game he can't get it out of his mind. And his big thing, which I thought was beautiful, is, guys, we're going to run a 16 Bob Trayo, and we're going to run a 18, and we're going to throw 2 or 3 patterns, and all we're going to do is play cover 3 defense, and cover 1 defense, which is, simple zone and a simple man-to-man, and we're going to kick the shit out of everybody. That's it. Get the fuck out of here. And that was the end of the meeting. I mean, John, he wanted to simplify everything and just go out and beat people up. And that's what we did. I mean, we lost the one game in 76 to the Patriots. Besides that, we beat everybody. We beat them convincingly. And John kept his word pretty much, 3/4 of the way through the season. It was just simplified football and just beat people up. Nowadays, I don't think anybody would do something like that, but that was John Madden's way of not letting us make any mistakes, and we thought we were good enough and big enough and strong enough, and it proved out. And we got a little more complicated when we got closer to the Super Bowl, but right off the bat, simplify it. Let's go beat people up, and it worked. And that was the beauty of Madden. He always come up and said the right thing. Like, what do you say when you just lost your 5th, AFC Championship game in a row? That was not good. But John, he came up with that idea, and it worked. And we're all pretty happy about that.
You had kind of a reputation in the team that you couldn't get over the hump and win the big one. And then Super Bowl 11, which took place less than 2 miles from where we are right now, Raiders and Vikings at the Rose Bowl. You guys finally get over the top. How great was that for you personally and as a team?
Well, it was incredible win. And you guys were around in all those crazy playoff games. I mean, starting right with the Immaculate Reception, and we lose that one, and then we go to Miami, and they got the undefeated team, so we got to lose that one. We lost them, and it was just weird. I mean, we're too good to be losing these games, and we would just do it. So, the practice, we practiced a week up in Oakland, and then we went down to, we practiced at some high school down there near the Rose Bowl, and John was loose, and he kept the team loose, and he kept us positive. And we watched so much film on the Vikings, and we're like, these guys can't beat us. We were totally convinced. We hated. So I started in 71. Back to 71. The merger was 69, and the NFC used to just think they were the dominant conference, and let alone every time we played an NFC team, we needed to beat them. And now we got them in the Super Bowl. That's even a bigger target. We're not going to lose no matter what. You look back at, the Dolphins and the Steelers and us. I mean, AFC won up, I don't know how many Super Bowls in a row. It
Right.
was, even Baltimore, right? They became an AFC.
Yeah.
But were they in AFC when they went to the Super Bowl?
Yeah,
Or in NFC?
right.
I forgot.
Yeah, they beat the Cowboys.
That's right. There you go. Okay. So that was good stuff. Anyway, we were not going to lose that game, and we had so the next day we had 8 guys in the Pro Bowl that year, and we went down. So John had us a big old bus loaded with beer, and it was very, very classy thing for him to do. We partied all the way. So we practiced in San Diego because the game was going to be in Kansas City, and the beauty of the old Raider Chief thing was, everybody wanted to beat the NFC, so we did beat them. So we go to the Pro Bowl up in Kansas City, and they line up the NFC, and naturally the Kansas City crowd boos the whole NFC team, and then they're going across the field and they're cheering for all the AFC guys, and then when it came to the Raiders, they just booed every one of us. No matter what, that was the rivalry. So yeah, a Chief Raider Super Bowl would have been really the game to have back in those days. Those were great fun games and nasty games. I mean, I don't think anybody could survive, with the new rules, playing a Raider Chief game. Everybody be thrown out, but that's the way it was.
So after all those tough losses to the Steelers in the playoffs, you finally get over the hump in '76, winning the Super Bowl. And I'm sure you wished you could have beaten the Steelers to get there. But the whole season, I think, that great season was dictated by the opening game when you did play the Steelers. And I think you were down 14 points in the fourth quarter. And you come back and you win that first game. Was that kind of a signal to you that this was going to be a special season?
Well, we had a great preseason. And then we knew we were going to be good, and then we got the Steelers at home. I remember playing, the A's were still alive, so we had to play on that AstroTurf brick dirt that they used for an infield. The field was horrible, but
it's only gotten better.
Yeah, I don't even know what it looks like anymore. But anyway, so we got Kenny. He just played a great second half, and our defense tightened up. I think we got Franco to fumble, and then Kenny zip right in the end zone, and all of a sudden, instead of being 2 touchdowns, down with 1, and we got a whole half to deal with them. In the second half, we got going. So then we beat the Steelers, and that was a beautiful thing. Anytime you could beat them or the Chiefs, that was good stuff. But opening up the season and beating the Steelers, yeah, that gives you a great feeling, gives you something, it makes you can beat the best in the league.
Now, Phil, I've got to go back, and I want to ask you about something that you've never talked about ever. And we'll go back to 72. Talk to me about the Immaculate Reception and what you remember, other than the fact you were clipped when Franco was running down the field.
It was funny. What was I just? I was in Oakland. Oakland. How about that? I still say Oakland. I was in Vegas for the game Monday night, and somebody had the Immaculate Reception in slow motion.
Oh God!
And this was like a real high tech kit that was in the. I work for Caesars now, so I'm the Raider host in their box, and this kid, he had the phone. He had one of the big phones, and he goes, "Mr. Villapiano, I didn't know you were covering Franco Harris. I said, yeah. And he goes, look. And he showed it in slow motion. So we got all these people in a big circle. And I said, now make it go slow. Well, I want to say it was not a vicious clip. Matter of fact, it might not even have been a clip. But I lived and died that for so many years, all the way up to 50 years when we had we were going to have the reunion, the 50-year Immaculate Reception reunion, and I was going to swear to everybody about being clipped. And, the funny thing was Frenchie Fuqua, he can't remember, anything he did yesterday. He's probably got some bad amnesia about that game. And Franco, all of a sudden, got amnesia about that game. So neither one of these guys could remember anything. And then, so I always said, I'm the only one that can think anymore. So
that's
and
scary.
I can remember. So I'm telling the truth, And so we had many good years of remembering the Immaculate Reception. And Franco would call me every year, like 4:07 in the afternoon, and ask me what I was doing 29 years ago, 25 years ago, 15 years ago. Hey, Billy, what were you doing at this time? It was so funny. And then it became a joke. And then, they had me for the 40-year Immaculate Reception reunion in Pittsburgh. I flew in for that, and that's when they put his statue, somebody in, it was a parking lot now because they built Heinz Field, and somebody found the exact spot, and so they had the Steelers, all the management from the Steelers there, and Chuck Noll was there, everybody, it was really cool. And I got to represent the Raiders and tell my story again about getting clipped and about the holding and about offense to offense, and Jack Tatum never touched the ball. So it was, it was fun. And, Franco and I, God, we ended up having a little show. We went over that so many times that it became like a stand-up comedian act, and Franco would be forgetting everything, and I'd be reminding him of all the bad things the Steelers did.
Hey, Phil, we're recording this on December 19th. 2 years ago tomorrow, on December 20th, the man who caught that ball in the Immaculate Reception, Franco Harris, died. Now, Raider fans grew to hate Franco and those Steeler teams, but not you. You just mentioned you and Franco became great friends. What can you tell us about your friend?
Well, it was really cool the way it started. And I'm a year older than Franco. So in 1971, I got the defensive rookie of the year. And 72, he got offensive rookie of the year. But anyway, in Trenton, New Jersey, there's this huge Italian club. And they gave out the Italian Athlete of the Year. So I win it in 71. And Franco wins it in 72 after the Immaculate Reception, plus his unbelievable rookie year that he had. So they invited me to come back to the dinner, but I was in California and I couldn't get back. But my mother and father went to the dinner and to represent me, and they were there the year before too. So they put Franco's parents and my parents and Franco all at the same table. And my father came from right outside of Naples, Italy, and Franco's mother came from right outside of Naples in Italy. They spoke the same dialect, which is very, very rare. I mean, certainly they could understand Italian. They both, Franco's mother mostly spoke Italian at home too. But when her and my father, Franco, said they were like lovers all night at the dinner, and he was there, he couldn't believe that they only spoke Italian. They had the greatest time. They got pictures together, and all the Italian guys from Trenton they all loved it. So I think, my first Pro Bowl was my third year, and that would have been Franco's second year, and he made the Pro Bowl, and I made the Pro Bowl, God, could that have been? That could have been what we just talked about, the San Diego practicing down there. Don't matter. Anyway, so we're, when he first thing he says when he sees me, he goes, Phil, I got, now we're friends because we're on the AFC team. So we're talking, and he goes, you wouldn't have believed your father and my mother. And I'm like, what? And so he loved it so much. And when you get to that level with somebody, when you start talking about the mother and father, no matter how hard we played against each other, we were very, that started our friendship. And we kept it going forever and ever. I can't tell you, him helping me. I went into the steamship world, transportation. So I was selling for a steamship line. That's what I did for 40-something years after football. So anyway, every time I went to Pittsburgh, if I brought Franco to meet a customer, my God, those customers would never leave, ever. So I used Franco. He used me. He always called me whenever he needed, the Immaculate Reception, story to be told. Him and I did it so many times. And he helped me out in business. And, God, I remember this Pittsburgh Traffic Club, which is this big organization. And the guy had heard that Franco and I were pretty good buddies. And he said, so, this is a horrible thing to ask, but, I know you and Franco are friends. You think you could bring him to he had the big dinner right around Christmas. And I'm talking big. And it was in the Hilton ballroom, blah, blah, blah. And Franco and I did our Immaculate Reception. We didn't tell anybody we were going to do it. I was just going to introduce him, and he was going to say hello. And we had more fun with those people. And no matter what you said, they loved it, because I tell everybody how I got into the steamship world or transportation world, whatever you want to call it. And 99% of the people that I had to call on were men, 1% women, but 100% of the 99 plus the 1 were all football fans. So I would call and say, hi, I'm Phil Villapiano from Independent Container Line. You think I could come in, say hello, tell you about it? And the guys would say, wait a minute, I know that name. How do I know that name? And then I would go, well, you're a football fan? Of course I'm a football fan. Well, if I would be going to Minnesota, I would say, I hate the Vikings, or something like that. Then you get these people talking, and oh my God, I got so many friends all over the country because they're all football fans, and we had a lot of fun, and we got a lot of business over the years.
Good.
Through the being a football player.
We are talking with Raiders great linebacker Phil Villapiano, one of the best names in NFL history as far as I'm concerned. So it's not a surprise to me that people would recognize that name. Phil, I'll never forget you guys trying to carry John Madden off the field after winning Super Bowl 11. Not an easy task. What was it like to play for Coach Madden? Probably easier than carrying him.
Oh my God, yeah. I don't think they ever got him up in the air. And you had Dave Rowe, who was probably 320, and Charlie Filion, who was 300, and John Matusak was in on it too. I mean, 3 of our biggest guys couldn't get that guy off the ground, and they finally got him up, and then somebody tripped, and they all went down. It was funny, but yeah, we didn't try to pick John up too many times. But Super Bowl, that was the goal of some of our big guys, but we still couldn't get him up. And he would start out the season probably about 275 pounds, And then, he liked to eat. And I guess the more nervous he got as the season would go along, John would eat and eat and eat. So he was probably way over 325, by the Super Bowl. So it was no easy guy to pick up. But, you ask about John, and John is a coach, and I always tell everybody, man, he was like a psychiatrist, and he used to know what you were thinking and know what you're feeling better than anybody I'd ever been around. And, I remember one day I just stunk it up against New England in Oakland, and the worst thing, they had me going. I just couldn't play that. As hard as I was trying it, and then it's almost like if you're a pitcher and you're trying to, it's not a good night, and you're trying so hard you can't even get the ball over the plate. So I just couldn't get it right. I used to anticipate where the ball was going to go a lot of times, and a lot of times I was right. And that night I'll never forget Grogan giving the ball. He was stuck it in Sam Cunningham's stomach, and I said to myself, I'm killing this guy. And I unloaded on Cunningham, and he pulled the ball out and ran around the end. And Matt came up to me on Monday and goes, "Hey, Phil, you lost it out there." And I go, "Coach, you're right." So that was probably the only time he ever had to tell me that. But I did. Sometimes you can just have a bad night. But John would say the right thing and get you right back in the fold and get you ready to go next week. There's, pro football, as everybody, you guys have heard it a million times. There's, those games, they come around so fast, from one Sunday to the next. Now you go Sunday to Thursday. I mean, I don't even know how you could be ready in 3 days, but, we're all pros, and you do that. You get ready, you think about the long 10 days off, and that makes you get through it. But, good coaches know how to get their guys ready, and John Madden was a master at that, similar to, remember when we lost that crazy game to the Steelers, and he simplified it. Maybe he didn't even simplify it, but he told us he did, and that was good enough for us. Give us a reason to, get back out there and practice hard. And John was a master of, and you could tell that in his broadcasting career. He would think like, all his audience. He said the things the audience wanted to hear, and that for his players too. He would say the stuff we wanted to hear.
So we had Henry Lawrence on the show, and Henry talked about at John's memorial singing "Amazing Grace." Were you at the memorial, and when he sang that, like, what kind of emotions went through you?
Well, Henry was he was our designated real singer. Everybody, Marv Hubbard, he wanted to be a country singer. Ray Guy wanted to be a country singer. Dave Casper wanted, all these guys thought they were singers, but, Killer, Henry Lawrence, his nickname Killer, he was a real singer, and I was there, and he sang that, and it brought the house down. It was a very, very emotional, I remember when Kenny Stabler died and John showed up, they brought him out real late onto the field, and they drove him out in the golf cart, and he didn't have any color in his face. And I looked at him, and I'm like, something's the matter with Coach. And you could feel it, but you didn't know it. Actually, nobody admitted it, but he had retired from broadcasting, and he got behind the podium, and he did, a 5-minute thing on Kenny Stabler. I don't know if any of you guys were there, but it was great. He brought the house down, and he got back in the golf cart, and that's the last time I ever saw him alive. So, there was something, there was something going on, but I don't think any of us players knew it. And then he died so suddenly. What was it, like Christmas Eve or something, right? And it was just amazing. So yeah, everybody needed Henry to sing that night and to sing the way he sang, and it was very emotional.
Well, Phil, I'm going to do my best to segue off that a little bit. It's always tough.
Okay.
But back in the 70s, you guys, you touched on it just a second about Kenny Stabler. You had some amazing, zany personalities on that team with Matuzak and Hendricks and Tatum and Stabler. What do you remember about those guys? And can you try to tell stories about some fun things they did or some crazy things they did?
Well, there's a million stories, and if you want to read Kenny Stabler's first book, it cost about 5 divorces. So I got to be very careful. You don't, some of the things, we had a wonderful team, and the cast of characters, it was amazing, and they would come in from everywhere, and I remember when Bubba Smith was playing next to me for a couple of years, and he injured his knee in Baltimore, and he was never the same. It was never Bubba killed again. So he comes and he's playing next to me, and everybody knew that he couldn't move, and they just kept running and running and running right at him and I. I mean, I'm next to him, so I got to take the brunt of this. And I remember, telling Al Davis, Al, Bubba's hurt. He's not killed Bubba. Remember, he made these stickers that go on the back of your car, bumper stickers, kill Bubba, kill, all this bullshit. And it drove me crazy because he was the furthest thing from that. Great guy. And, right after his Raider career, he went on into show business where he belonged because he, wasn't a football player anymore. But we tried to make him a football player. And I remember, telling Al that he just can't do it. And we need somebody. So Bubba leaves, and Al brings in John Madden. And I didn't really know much about the twos. All I knew is he's a monster. And so now he's playing right next to me. And Al got him a house renting him a home about 4 houses down from me out in a little place called San Ramon. So Johnny and I would drive to work together every day. And, I pretty much could drink with the best of them. But when you drink with John Madden, that's a whole nother level. So, and Otis Siskunk and Ted Hendricks, we were the left side, and me and Twos, the left side, and Siskunk and Hendricks are the right side. So we would, we'd all lived out in San Ramon. We would ride in together every day, but instead of fighting the traffic, we would just go to the Hilton, and Twos and I would sit on the left side of the bar, and they would sit on the right side of the bar, and we drink straight Chevets on the rocks, and they would drink whiskey on the rocks, and that's what we drank after. But to see, me sip Chevets on the rocks, the Twos would drink the bottle, So this was. He didn't want a glass. He just had a bottle. So it was like, those are the things that I had to get used to with Johnny. And, at the very first night that I ever took him out, the first game that he was in Oakland, I invited, because him and his wife, not his wife, his girlfriend, they lived down the street from us. And, like I said, and so we go into, Johnny and I go into practice, and Patty, my wife, took Yvette in, and then after the game we went out together, and we went to this place called Clancy's, and Yvette, who's got this hair, butch haircut, real short, starts combing her hair, but she didn't have any hair. It was and it's like she's stroking it all the way down her arm almost. And we're looking at her and like, Yvette, what are you doing? She says, I'm combing my hair. But, she didn't have any hair. So you got to understand, I'm dealing with two people that I never was on that level before. And now we got Johnny who's drinking, quart bottles of booze, and Yvette's combing hair she doesn't have. And then Two says to me, he goes, "Hey, Phil, we got to go home." I said, "Why?" He says, "Well, the twins are all by themselves." And I'm like, "The twins?" "Oh, well, yeah, my kids." And I'm like, "Johnny, you left two kids all by themselves all day?" Because remember, we played the game. This was a nice game. So anyway, we race out to San Ramon, and Yvette gives me the key. I open the door, and these two dogs are sitting there. And I'm like, "These are the twins?" "Yeah, those are twins." So you just never knew what to expect with that, And then Teddy Hendrick, there's a million stories about him and, his antics. You never knew what he was going to do. He comes in and you get a game plan, and Hendricks would look at it and rip it up and walk out at a linebacker meeting. And, like the first time he did it, John Channing says, "What are you doing?" He goes, "This is the same shit you wrote last week. I don't need this shit." Like, okay, he uncoachable, all right. But that's the way we were. Kenny, we had no clue what Kenny did the night before a game and night after a game. He was out there somewhere, and it was always fun to, ask him where he was or what he was doing, and Kenny and Freddie. Oh my God, these guys. We didn't make hardly any money, so we certainly had a good time. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
I
I went as a kid a few times to Raiders training camp in Napa, and the stories from that time are legendary. It's amazing you guys were able to keep it together on the field. How did you balance football, foosball, and the fun?
Yeah, well, it was the way it, you go right. Jimbo, my driver here, remember we talked about Jim, he hasn't applauded at all, but now we're lost.
The stadium's back.
I think this goes to that.
If you get to the ocean, you've gone too far.
That's right.
Yeah, right. We're gonna do it. We're not. I think Jim, we were talking about the Super Bowl before up in Pasadena. I think he was headed to Pasadena rather than SoFi. But we'll get there. We'll get there. But okay, where were we? What was that?
I was just going to throw one thing on Matuzak. My favorite Matuzak movie is actually not football or memory. It's not football. He would do all like TVs and films. And I remember, do you remember the television show Hunter with Fred Dreyer? And
I do. Of course.
And he would get all his football buddies in the show. Yeah, I swear there was an episode I thought I saw Franco playing a bar, like a guy at a bar. He didn't have a line, just a guy at a bar. I might be wrong on that. But anyway, he had Matuzak on one show, and he's like a psycho killer or something, but he's like a punk rock psycho killer.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, did he even have to act for that? Did he even, was that actually John?
Well, yeah. And, how this whole thing started was, remember they were making North Dallas 40.
Right.
Johnny and I couldn't go because I was working, but he was trying to be an actor, and I told him, I said, "John, they're looking for some guys for North Dallas 40." So Johnny went in and he was just going to be one of these big guys that stood around. And then they gave him a line or two to say, and pretty soon he took over the whole movie, if you remember that movie. So then that North Dallas 40 went to the Goonies, and then went to Caveman, and then went to TV shows. And so John had a really good acting career going. And then he overdid it one night, which is a shame, but he was a great actor. And you know what? He had one of those memories. He'd look at a script once and memorize it. And,
oh, wow.
But he was quite the man, quite the actor. And, in that gigantic body of his, everybody be kind of amazed at what he looked like. And then he was smart too. So it was, I think he'd still be acting right now if he was alive.
We do a little segment here. It's called 50-50. It's a trivia question, and basically you get a 50% chance of getting it right. So you could, and we're going to go back to your college days. We're going to Bowling Green now, okay?
Right.
All right. So true or false? Oral Hershiser and the famed actress Eva Marie Saint both are graduates of Bowling Green.
Well, I know Oral Hershiser is, and so that's a definite. Right. Now the actor, who did you say?
Eva Marie Saint, who was in On the Waterfront. She's 100 years old and I believe still alive.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Eva Marie Saint, I would have to say, somebody's got to be an actress out of Bowling Green, so make it her. But we definitely know Oral Hershiser was the man.
Well, you are,
and I can't believe, when Bowling Green has got to be the flattest place in the universe, and the winds below 1,000,000 miles an hour, and how he went to Bowling Green and pitched is beyond me. But he did it, and he controlled it, and great. So tell me about Eva.
Yeah, you are correct. She did go there, and she was on the Waterfront. She was in North by Northwest, the Hitchcock movie. She's been acting. She was in it with Tom Hanks and.
If she's 100 years old, her IMDb page is going to be quite lengthy. I can imagine.
But just so you know, she's not the only actress. Robert Patrick from the Terminator 2 movie and stuff, and Tim Conway, the comedian. Those are Bowling Green people, man.
My mother.
Yeah, Tim.
My mother graduated from Bowling
Green.
And Bill's mom graduated from Bowling Green.
Yeah, she did.
Wow, but she didn't pitch there.
No, she played football.
And if you're Bowling Green, why is the school colors not green? Why is it? Was it black and orange or something?
Well, they're exactly the same colors as the Cleveland Browns.
Oh, they're brown and orange.
The Browns took their colors from Bowling Green.
Oh, wow!
And they did when they first started training camp. They went to Bowling Green and they took I don't even think they had their colors yet. And they picked Bowling Green's colors, and they're exactly the same.
Because that's not a common color combination, brown and orange. No. But I was going to say, did you know that the Raiders originally were not black and silver? The Raiders' original colors were black and gold their first 2 years.
Yeah, I remember that. I didn't like that at all. No. I like, Jimbo.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, hold on a second. 660. We're fine. Oh, I thought you were lost. No. Okay, sorry guys. I thought we were lost.
Not a problem.
We just drove this last week to that place over, on the beach. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's get back to work here.
Hey Phil, I know you were in Vegas this past week for the Monday night game, and as we are going along with your navigation right now, you're heading to SoFi for a game tonight. How important is it for you to still see some of the guys and be around the game 40 years after you last played?
Well, it's very important. And, John Madden, this is something I probably should have told you when we talked about Super Bowl. He was great for his preseason pregame speeches, okay? So he'd bust the desk, throw something through the, just smash up things, scream, yell, blah, blah, blah. And just, and I needed that. I loved that. For the Super Bowl, he told everybody to take a knee. And so you take a knee, you say a little prayer. And then John said something, and it stuck with me to this day. He goes, "This will be the single biggest event in any of your lives as long as you win. Let's go." That was it. I needed a lot more than that. He wasn't going to give us a lot more than that. But over the years, the biggest single event of my life turned out to be the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
NFL football. So your question is, is it fun to stay involved in it? Yes. Is it fun to see your old teammates? Yes. Because that whole aura of football was the single biggest event in any of our lives. And, it could only last a day for some players. They get cut the next day. Or I was lucky enough to get 13 years. And it was a huge, huge chunk of my life. And it taught me, we're doing a book right now. And if it stays the same title, and I'm doing it with a fellow from NFL Films because I did so many of those NFL film segments. One day they said, when you retire, let's write a book. So I'm doing it with a guy named Todd Schmidt, who's one of the producers down there. And, we talk about this kind of stuff in the book, and it's called, if they don't change it, I like it. I just want to hit somebody. You guys like that?
Yes.
That's how we feel with each other. We just
See, so I don't know. My wife wants it to be called "Just Win, Baby."
Oh yeah.
I just want to hit somebody because
Yeah.
that's all I wanted to do my whole life. And
Right.
then when you go from football into, like, I went into sales. I used the same mentality in sales as I did in football. And, I go into somebody's office, watch out, man, I'm coming in to knock your head off, in salesman terms, not, but, and my whole life has been like this. And I taught my kids to be like this, and it's just, and I didn't realize it. My whole goal was to play pro football. I hit my goal. Then you look back and you say, "How'd you do that?" Well, I just wanted to hit somebody, and I did it. I'm going to let you guys know when it's done, and we'll talk about it.
I would love that.
We could go to page 65 and talk about how much I hate Russ Francis.
Maybe
and then we'll go to
maybe
Riley Odom's. I want to gouge his eyeballs out and things along that line.
Maybe a few more divorces, huh?
Yeah, no, not for me. Not for me. I got one of those, and that's enough. Right, Janie? Janie's in the back seat. Janie, are you awake? Tell them no divorces. Janie said no divorce.
Good. Hey, once a Raider, always a Raider, and nobody epitomizes that more than the great Phil Villapiano. Phil, I hope this is the first of many times we get a chance to talk. We really, really enjoyed it. So say goodbye to Janie and Jim for us, and thank you so much for giving us some time today.
Right, and don't take the 60.
Call me anytime. Okay, everybody clap that.
Come on, Jim. Let's
Yes,
do it.
come on, Jim. Hands off the wheel.
This is going to be nuts. Hey, who am I? You know what? So anyway, I can't even root for, like, Janie used to work for the Oregon Ducks, and she loves Herbert, but now we got the other quarterback too tonight.
Yeah.
So
Bo Nix.
So we got two Oregon Ducks. I hate the Chargers and I hate the Broncos. And then we got 2 Oregon Ducks. I don't know. I just don't know.
Good luck.
I'm going to be rooting for the Raiders tonight.
Yes. You and me both.
Let's get that number 1 pick.
Yes.
That's what we got to do.
I think we're heading that way.
Yeah.
Hey, Phil, thank you so much. Have a great time tonight, and don't root for either of them.
Yeah.
I'm not
Go
gonna,
nobody.
I can't do that. I'm going to Vegas, son. I'm going to root for the Raiders on Sunday, even though they are so bad. No, you know what? They're not that bad.
They're still playing hard for Pierce.
Yeah,
you got to say that.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Okay, boys.
Right.
Thank you, Phil.
I'm getting ready. I'm getting ready for my first beer. Jimbo, we got beer in here.
Not you, Jim. Not you, Jim.
Jim, you better not have forgotten that beer, man.
All right.
Yes, we'll see you
Okay,
at
guys.
the Hilton.
Exactly. See you soon.
Okay, man.
See ya.
Phil Villapiano, everyone. My favorite
Bye-bye.
combination when interviewing someone, a character with characters. So that was a lot of fun.
Yes.
So who will the Steelers face in the Super Bowl? We know that. It's going to be the Vikings. If there was an NFC version of the Raiders in the 70s, might be the Rams. Chuck Knox's team was a beast in the regular season, but they could just never get over the hump. The Vikings could get past the NFC Championship. It was the Super Bowl that was their Achilles. But in this game, the Rams just made too many mistakes. Listen to this. 3 fumbles, 2 interceptions, 2 holding penalties, passing illegally, being offsides, a personal foul, muffed a punt, dropped passes. Other than that, they were perfect, and they had the game right in hand. So,
And didn't James Harris, there was a big interception he threw in the end zone, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's an example of how the Rams' day went, Billy. You kind of mentioned it. They get the ball on their own 1-yard line and drive 98 yards in 7 plays to the Vikes' 1-yard line, and then they throw a deflected pass that's picked off in the end zone. 98 yards is the longest you can go without scoring.
That's true.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Right?
Yeah.
You can't go any further. So a year after the Vikings lost to the Dolphins in the Super Bowl, they were going to take on the Steelers. The third of 4 trips to the Super Bowl for the Vikings, and they all ended the same.
Yeah, I like the Vikings. I like Chuck Foreman a lot back in the 70s.
Oh,
But
yeah.
That's tough for them.
Tarkenton and that people eater defense.
But
yeah.
the only thing I picked up, sorry.
I was going to say that the story I told, I think our very first show, if I'm not mistaken, when we had Ed White on, was that Fran Tarkenton hosted Saturday Night Live in that first 75 or 76. And he goes, or maybe it was 77, but it was after they lost to get in the Super Bowl. And he goes, I predict that we're going back to the Super Bowl next year, and I predict we will lose again. So, yeah.
The only thing I took from this is I did not know. Did anyone know how Jack Reynolds got his nickname Hacksaw?
No.
He once sawed his Jeep in half because Tennessee lost a game. That's how I got Hacksaw. I never knew that. I take weird stats. And then I didn't realize that Carol Rosenblum, who owned the Rams, also owned Warner Brothers at the time.
I knew he was in the movie.
They also, Rosenblum and Dan Reeves traded franchises, the Colts and the Rams.
right.
Yes. But I'm saying, I mean, I know about the game because we were there, but I didn't know a couple of those things. I never knew how we got Hacksaw. I just thought, and I didn't know Carol Rosenblum. I always just thought he was a owner of the football team. I didn't know he was a movie guy as well.
Yeah, that would
shuts it down.
That would seem to be pretty tough to hacksaw a car in half.
Yeah.
It would seem like it would be.
Yeah, and he's still around, so maybe we can get
I
him
don't
in
know.
there.
We can get the hacksaw and we'll go out and we'll see.
We can.
All right.
They don't mind that. Yeah, no one cares now.
Let's move on. There is nothing like a dame. The women's superstars, some of the best female athletes competing in an athletic contest of different events for prize money at the Houston Astrodome. Gymnast Kathy Rigby, tennis superstar Billie Jean King, diver Mickey King. Mickey King said, "This is the sad part about women's sports and why we're powerless. Line us all up, and not even we can pick out who we are." So they're trying to give a little bit of notoriety and tension to these women athletes. And it took a while, Billy, but you got more on what happened a few years down the road.
I did. Let me first say, only 4,500 fans showed up the first time. That was it. It was the first time they were doing the women's superstars, so no one was really sure how it was going to go. But to give you one of the gals that were there to sort of bring this up a little bit, her name was Laura Blears. She was the world #1 surfer in '73, but she also posed in Playboy for those that are interested. Now,
What was that name again? I wasn't listening until
What's Playboy? I've never heard of it
Exactly.
before.
Sorry, I just, I mean.
he said Playboy, not Playgirl.
Yes. Exactly. But years down the road, what is it? Maybe 10 years down the road, the Superstars women had really become much bigger. Right. And one of our guests, Nancy Lieberman, was on the show in 74 and dominated the episode. Yeah, 84. Yeah. I'm sorry, 84. Dominated the episode 9 years after this one.
Right.
She won the rowing. She won the running. She won 2 or 3 other things. And each time, the Nancy Lieberman that we interviewed had that tough, confidence, I'll fight anybody. On that, her little voice is like, I just do the best I can. I don't want anybody to get hurt. I mean, she was so innocent and so young. Yeah. And you look at that and go, what a difference her then and now her nowadays. Yeah. And the guy interviewing her played on Pittsburgh's Super Bowl teams. Mark couldn't get him as a guest.
Lynn Swann.
Yes. Oh, so it all ties back. Yeah. But no, Nancy Lieberman in the Superstars Women was absolutely phenomenal. You don't realize what kind of athlete she is. And she's going up against different strong women, basketball player, volleyball player, and she's literally out rowing them. She was amazing. She still is.
Yeah. Well, to make the summer league team of the Lakers.
That's right. That's right. It was just, to me, it was her.
To think you can.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That's right. That's right.
That's where she's really different.
Yes.
Is that she wasn't intimidated by any of this.
No, but her persona was just, because the woman we interviewed was just so strong. Oh, yeah. And she was just such a nice, and she's still nice, I'm saying, but she was so young and so innocent. That was the biggest difference I saw. You just was so soft-spoken and so kind, and she still is, but now she carries herself.
And just a more dignified.
As a woman that goes, I can do anything, and I know I can.
Yeah, because I've done it.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
This, we mentioned, we know who's playing in the Super Bowl now. The Vikings and Steelers will go at it, but there was a Super Bowl pullout in this issue that grabbed your attention, Mark.
It did, and you know why it grabbed my attention? For its brevity, because there had only been like 9 Super Bowls. Right. So there's not a lot of memories to go through.
Right. I looked at the records and I'm like, the most passing yards was like 260 or something like that.
Right. Can you imagine if they put it in there now? Yeah. It would take the whole magazine.
It would be. It would. Yeah. Especially with the little highlights of every game.
And I'm going through this, and the first Super Bowl game I ever watched on television was Joe Namath beating the Colts. That was the first Super Bowl.
You were 3 or you watched Super Bowl 3?
I watched Super Bowl 3. I wasn't 3.
Okay.
I remember 69.
Yeah, so he'd be 30.
Yeah, it was
31.
January of 69. I was 35 at the time. I remember the Dallas Super Bowl win over Miami, but that game started like at 11 in the morning. By the time I got back from Hebrew school, which I had to go to,
obviously,
the game was already in the second quarter. I'm like, damn this thing. And then my really fond memory.
Damn this thing. I don't think that's
Super Bowl 7.
Unless he's really brewing
Super Bowl 7, Miami beating Washington to complete the perfect season.
Right.
And it was played at the Coliseum, Premium, trying to throw a football. Right. I remember that because I was sick as a dog that day. And my mom made me like croissant rolls and I had milk or something. And I'm eating it downstairs watching the game and I threw it all up.
All right. So there go our listeners.
That's a Hebrew right there.
Well, that was kind of like...
He brewed that right up.
Well, that was kind of like the Super Bowl game was. You want to throw it up. Yes, so this is Super Bowl 9. So they only have 8 Super Bowls to go by. Right. So, these records and stuff like that, I mean, are just,
Now, think of that. It really does show how old we are. But what Super Bowl is it this year?
50-something?
50-something, yeah, 54.
59?
It's all Roman numerals.
Yeah, no idea.
But it's interesting. I wonder if any of these records from the first 8 Super Bowls still stand.
That'll give you something to do to find that out. Shouldn't you have done that before you talked about it?
Now.
Yeah. Too funny. All right, cashing in on Marvin's Garden. Marvin Webster was a beast at Morgan State, where he averaged last season 21 points, 22 boards, and 8 blocks per game, while leading his team to a Division II championship. He could have turned pro many times because of the ABA, but the son of a preacher said money can't buy happiness, and I wasn't physically or spiritually prepared. So he's back for his senior season, and the human eraser, as he is known, suffers from hepatitis that would plague him his entire life.
Great nickname, man.
One of the, I was just going to say, one of the all-time great nicknames.
Yeah.
The human eraser. because of his ability to block shots. They said he was one of those great shot blockers too, where now a lot of guys do it for the intimidation factor, and there's a shot clock now too, so it's not as big a deal if you don't control the block shot. But he was great at blocking the shot and being able to control it. That's basically a turnover is what that is.
Guys that knew how to block and get it to their teammates, sort of block it that way. That was a
Do you know he had almost as many rebounds as points in his career?
Wow.
He had 4,302 points, and he had 4,218 rebounds in his NBA, ABA career.
Well, yeah. He said, God comes first with me, followed by my family, people in general, and basketball. I'm not sure what my destination will be in this world, but I would like to play some pro ball to earn a living like anybody else. So my most immediate concern after this season has to be signing a contract. I can't escape that. He sounds like such a good guy, which is the total opposite of what I thought of him. Not that I didn't think he was a good guy, but he was just huge and intimidating and this force.
Yes.
And you don't think of people as that having that gentle side to him. But
especially as a kid. You look at a guy like that and you just, he's already bad because he's big.
And his nickname's intimidating.
Human eraser.
The human eraser.
Yeah.
Right. He played the most with the Knicks, but his best season was his second season in the league with the Sonics, and his only year with the Sonics. He averaged 12.6 points a game and 14 rebounds a game with 2 blocks.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. But what's sad is like he died at 56. He was found dead in a Tulsa hotel room. They thought he had a coronary artery disease and died from that.
Wow. And like I said, he had hepatitis his whole life. So always
not easy.
And he had a son who died.
Right, I was going to say, even more depressing, his son, Marvin Webster Jr., I think he was 19 when he was found dead from a heart attack after his sophomore season. So
tough
on that level.
Life. But a great, the kind of guy that's perfect for this podcast because the human eraser, like you said, is an all-time great, and we all know who that was, the great Marvin Webster. So that's going to get us to the For the Record portion of our show. I love this part because it's just little snippets of things that are going on back then, and there's 3 of them in this one. Mark, go first. Tell me what is up with Bart Starr.
Well, Bart Starr is named the head coach and general manager of the Green Bay Packers. He led the team, obviously, to all those championships in the 60s and stuff like that, but now he's going to coach the team. And I remember Jim Hill talked really highly of Bart Starr because I think Starr actually cut him from the team, but it meant the way he did it was so professional and he owed so much. I remember him saying it to Bart or whatever.
I remember Bill Curry spoke very highly of him, that he was his mentor when he was with the Packers.
But so I mean, here's this legend, and that always doesn't work well when you take someone who's successful as a player and then make him a coach and stuff.
And it didn't there.
No, but I think he replaced Dan Devine, who then I believe went to Notre Dame.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Dan Devine.
Yep. Billy, Don James.
Don James. He was named head coach at UW. He was 25-19 at Kent State, so it wasn't considered this guy's going to change the program. He split a national championship with Miami in 1991. He only had 1 losing season. He went to 2 Rose Bowls. He was 4-2. He was 4-2 in the Rose Bowl. They've only gone to 2 more Rose Bowls in the last 32 years. Don James, where he came from and what he turned out to be, just a legend at UW.
What year was his coaching career? Because he was
75 to 92.
There you go.
92.
At Washington.
So towards the end of his career, that's when Washington was also competing for national
That's
championships.
right. That's right.
Steve
Edmond.
And my favorite story is there was a cameraman at Channel 2, Chuck Taylor, great guy, but he's the biggest Washington Huskies fan you have ever seen in your life. So we're covering, I think, the baseball playoffs. I want to say this is 91. We're in Oakland covering the World Series, and he's trying to listen to the Stanford-Washington game on the radio. And all of a sudden he starts cussing. God, I can't believe it. I go, Chuck, what happened? He goes, Stanford scored a touchdown. I go, oh my God, what's the score? It's 56-7 Washington. Okay.
You going to be okay?
Yeah. Man,
they're
on their way back.
Well, in his defense back then, teams were voted on. So how you beat teams did factor in, right? That's why they would pile on these things. So now 56-7 is not the same as 56-34.
I can't picture people looking at that going, well, they gave up a touchdown late in the game. UW out.
Right,
you
right.
know?
Well,
Right.
And
Right.
you know, I don't know at Stanford, but they probably didn't have Anthony Davis there to run take a kickoff back.
Yes.
Right.
And lead you
Right.
to 55 straight
Yeah.
points. You know.
Yeah. Mark, you got another one?
Yeah, I do actually. Hank Stram, he had 7 years left on a 10-year deal with the Chiefs. Is fired. He was the only coach the Kansas City Chiefs ever had. They moved from Dallas. They were originally the Dallas Texans, and they moved in '63 to Kansas City. So he was their only coach, and he's so famous for he got mic'd up for the Super Bowl IV when they beat the Vikings, and he had a mic on the whole game with those vest on, and it was this great video and listening to him coaching and cheering his team on to the upset victory over the Vikings. But yeah, he is out, and then he got he did a lot of color work, I want to say, for CBS.
Faces in the crowd, Bill?
Julie Brown, she was a runner, UCLA, Cal State Northridge. She ended up being a 13-time national champion in her running career. She ran track and cross country. She also, if you all remember, they boycotted the Olympics back in 1980. Well, Miss Brown, she won a silver in the 1980 boycott Olympics in Philadelphia. So, taking that a little farther, she might have been a gold or silver medal winner if we didn't have to boycott the Olympics back.
So instead of going to Moscow, we had kind of our own version of Olympics here.
Our fake Olympics.
Gotcha, and she did.
Way to
she
tie
did
it
well.
up there,
Gotcha,
yes.
nice.
Yeah.
Good for her. Mark?
I've got a faces in the crowd, Kyle Macy. He was a senior guard in this Indiana high school team. He set a school record with 51 points in the game, and that year he almost averaged 36 points a game. And then he ended up in the NBA, a 7-year career in the NBA, playing with the Suns and the Bulls and the Pacers. So it's always nice to see a future successful pro.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, won a title with Kentucky as well.
I've looked ahead, and there are some huge names that were in Faces in the Crowd, which as a kid I never realized. But I mean, we're talking some humongous guys and gals that
We've already had. If you go Kyle Macy with Billy Sims a little bit ago.
That's right. 19th hole, I got one. You forget that Muhammad Ali was a divisive figure back in the day. Not everyone thought he should be Sportsman of the Year. Muhammad Ali bragged, writes W.O. Brown from Tulsa, Oklahoma, for days before his fight with Foreman. He insulted and humiliated Foreman during and after the fight. He continued to brag for weeks afterward. He is no sportsman. Boxer of the Year? Probably. Comeback of the Year? Possibly. Sportsman of the Year? Never. Now, Nancy Lieberman told us that he was basically the heel, like the wrestler guy he was selling it. Mm-hmm. He knew how to get people's attention. And if you go into a fight just going, well, I like this guy a lot, but he made people hate him, and people that hate want to see you lose, and they'll pay to see that happen. Yep. And he was a showman in a big way.
Yeah, not liked by a lot of the people in the 19th hole. The majority of them were just how could you do that? He had 2 fights and he's rude, and they're really
I kept reading him thinking that you'd have some of that element that was saying, this is a draft dodger or something that was anti-Vietnam, but it wasn't that. It was, and I'll be honest, I remember as a kid not liking Muhammad Ali because I didn't like that kind of braggadocious way that he was. But as I got older, I realized it was an act. He did think he was the greatest, but he could back that up.
I think there's a lot of older people didn't get it, and older people were like, get off my lawn. What's this guy doing? I don't think younger people had a different perspective.
But didn't Nancy Lieberman say something about that Foreman wanted to talk? He never got to thank Ali because he was on the mat and he left. So I'm saying it wasn't like Foreman was on the bandwagon of hating Muhammad Ali. So the other people took
it. But it is weird to think because, fast forward to the 80s, certainly by the 90s, he was just universally beloved by then. And now his legacy is much more than boxing. Final thoughts, Billy?
Yeah, I'm going to go with this. We had an article in here. It was called Whoop Da Wheelie. Whoop Da Wheelie was basically based on the movie On Any Sunday, which was a great movie when I was a kid. It was about motorcycle riding and a little BMX riding. All the BMX riding in that was done in Dana Point, California, where I grew up. And I do believe one of the guys, Wade Brown, I worked with at Hanshaw's Market back in 1978.
Is that right?
Job. Yeah. Just in
That's
the time.
A small world.
It is.
Clean up aisle 7? What was the job?
I stocked shelves at a liquor store.
Oh, and a star was born.
How much did you stock and how much did you pocket?
Well, I'll tell the story. It doesn't matter now. They used to give a big grocery basket. And so what we would do is we'd line the outsides of the basket with the empty boxes and then stack cases of beer. And so when I'd be going out, gotta take the trash out, I'd wheel out, card pull up, go, go, go. We were loved by everybody when I was like 16 yeyears old. Hey, Bill got Moosehead and Mickey's and Lowenbrow. It was like, yeah, Bill and Rod and Dean are working at the store.
What was the name of the store?
Hanshaw's.
And it went out of business.
No,
when?
it's now exactly. It's now a 7. I think it's a Circle K.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You were a truant officer's dream.
I was, man. And next, what was
nightmare?
Yeah. And what was right next door? An arcade.
Oh,
So it was like, right there, and yeah. It was,
Hello, police.
Exactly.
Police, I need to report a crime.
Hey, I wasn't the only one. A friend of mine had, and I've never. I don't think he has it now. He took a picture in his room of just like cases of beer. Hey, we wanted to enjoy our young life. I didn't drink at that time. I just, I didn't even know what it was.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think you'd have been good friends with John Matuzak and Phil Villapiano on the right side of the bar.
I would be. If anyone's young enough, you know what it's like to pimp beer. So it was my turn, and I walk up, and I'm like 15. I'm like wee little. Excuse me, sir. I got like $5. Could you give me a beer? Get me beer. He grabs me by the arm and starts shaking me. You shouldn't be drinking, you little kid. Who are you? I'm like, ah! I ran off. Never pimped beer again. Never. He had my little arm, and he's going, you shouldn't be pimping beer, you little punk. And I'm like, ah!
That was probably John Matuzak.
It might have been right outside the liquor store. I ran away. The guy had to pick me up from the car down the street. It was just like $10, man. I just wanted a case of beer. Yeah.
That man was looking out for you.
Yes, he was. I remember my little arm going everywhere, and he's yelling at me.
Oh,
Come
man,
on.
that's good. Good way to end it. We appreciate you guys for listening. We appreciate Phil Villapiano for coming on the show today, and we appreciate that we are done. For Mark and Bill, I'm Scott, and we are past our prime.
Happy 2025.
That's right.
Go
get
see
'em.
Nosferatu.
Oh, God.